So the first thing is that I forgot to include on the agenda a vote on last month's minutes. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes? I think that this is something we need to do every month. Anybody? I guess I will move. Okay, awesome. Colin, I'll put you down as the second. Colin, you're still muted, but I'll take that as a second. All in favor of approving the minutes? I saw me and Barb and Colin. Great. That's good enough. Okay. So first agenda item is about the NRVT opening day. So if you may remember from the last meeting, the NRVT is getting a brand new section, the missing link, that'll link to disjoint sections. Long story short, it's not going to be done in time. In particular, the section at the north end of the missing link. Jim, do you want to take this opportunity and discuss it yourself, or do you want me to just summarize it?
Sure. Well, I can just fill in, but I'll be brief and out of respect for your agenda. So no, we're not going to be completed with construction by our October the 16th target. There's two areas of concern. One is the north end, approaching New Canaan Avenue. That is really the most complicated section. It is a boardwalk, will rest on piles, et cetera, et cetera. They are drilling piles now, but they will not be complete by October 16th. So the northern access to the trail to New Canaan Avenue and onto the Broad Street segment would not be available to us on October 16th. The other area that's at question is the southern end of the missing link from Belden Avenue to Union Park. That section's also a little complicated because that requires retaining walls because it's, as you'll perhaps be able to visualize, it runs in the shadow of Super 7 and is quite steep. So the trail is cut into that slope, and retaining walls are required to even out the trail path. That may be completed by October 16th. They're also actively working on placing the precast retaining walls as we speak. And so it's possible that the trail from the Riverside Avenue trailhead to Union Park will be finished by October 16th. And our current plan is to make a call on that in early October. And if that is still correct, we would have a ribbon cutting for the trail per the original October 16th schedule, but we wouldn't have any grand festivities, and we obviously wouldn't have the wonderful event that Tanner had been spearheading, starting at Broad Street and working its way south. So we would save all of the festivities to the spring. We have more time to really do it right and make it an even grander event. But if practical, we would still do the ribbon cutting, really just to keep the profile of the trail in place and to keep some momentum going and let everybody know we're making progress and things are coming. I anticipate that all construction will be done before winter. So indeed, we'll be able to open with spring and with all due fanfare. Beyond that, just a brief aside, as you also know, we're working on the Willwalk section, which runs from Gristmill Road north to the town line and then into Wilton. That is under construction. That section was damaged in the hurricane of a couple of weeks ago to the tune of about $15,000, but we are raising the funds to repair that. And our plan is still hopefully to have that section open before winter as well. So things are continuing. And in terms of the missing link, a miss by a couple of weeks when it's been a 10-year project is not a huge miss, but it's nonetheless disappointing. But we're looking forward to a bigger and better spring event.
Thanks, Jim. I look forward to the spring when it sounds like we're going to be able to reschedule the festivities. I had a conversation earlier today with Sergeant Gulino from the police department, who is our representative of the NPD on the Bike Walk Commission. She may or may not be able to join later, but she loved the proposal and also mentioned that spring might end up being a better time to do it anyway. The month of October does tend to be very full of community events, and in the spring we might have a little more breathing room where we might be able to get more people to come out, especially people who have been looking forward to the spring and getting outside. That we might be able to capitalize on that. So I think that's a good thing. Also, the passport part of the proposal, again, that's to encourage people to visit businesses and other points of interest along the trail. That part was going to be a little rushed if we were going to try and get it done by October 16th. And so this will give us a lot more time to get that right. Sergeant Galino also was very, very excited about that segment of it. So with that said, I think we can move on. Oh, one follow-up question for Jim. The section of the Willock section that is going to be done is between Gristmill and Kent, right? It's not the entire Willock section.
That's correct.
Okay.
So it's basically Gristmill to Kent, and then there'll be a gap, and it's starting in Wilton and comes from Orham's Diner south. But then there's a gap around ASML for a ballpark direction, and that's a fundraise to get that one done.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for the update, Jim. I'll move on to the next one. The next item is the Calf Pasture bike pump. I think Sam is the one that's been driving this, and Sam couldn't attend tonight for a few different reasons. If somebody has a salient update, I'll take it. Otherwise, I'll move on. Great. Okay. This one I didn't find out about until after I published the agenda, but I'm going to slip it in here. This was brought to my attention both by a friend of mine who's on the zoning commission and also Christine. There's an event called Planapalooza this upcoming week. Some of you may know that the city is rewriting the zoning code, and it's a pretty big fundamental rewrite. And so they're taking lots of public input in different meetings in the upcoming week. I think there are some meetings scheduled for this Friday, the 17th, and then for a few days the following week. The one that pertains the most to our work is on Monday at 11 a.m. It is on alternative transportation, and I imagine and how it relates to the changes to the zoning code. So I plan to attend that one, and I would invite everybody else also to attend that and give your voice to the importance of a zoning code that accommodates alternative transportation methods. I don't know much of what's being proposed except for one very small matter, that of my bike shed, which is featured in past meetings. So I won't go into detail, but I invite you all to attend that session and contribute to the planning of our zoning code.
Hey, Tanner, sorry, it's Christine.
Yeah, go ahead, Christine.
Sorry, I'm off camera, everybody. I'm not feeling well, but would you be able to send that flyer out to the commissioners?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah. In fact, I think I'm going to send it to more than just the commission. I think I'm going to send it to our whole mailing list, because I think there's a lot of people on our mailing list that would also be interested in providing public input. So with that, I'm going to go to Greg, because Greg has a whole host of updates for us about what TMP has been working on around the city. Go ahead, Greg.
I certainly do, Tanner. So we'll start off with some really good things here. So TMP has been moving forward, installing 4 bike racks around different locations, as previously provided by the commission, and suggestions based upon you guys. TMP submitted encroachment permits to DPW for the installations of 4 bike racks. And we have one more remaining that we're going to look to put in as well. So let me just share my screen real quick here. Can everybody see a bike rack?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. Okay, so obviously these these are the 5 bike racks that we have in our possession based upon, we bought them last year with the budget from the Bike Walk Commission. So we have 5 of them in stock in our possession. So we'll start off with the first location. We're putting them in the Main Street lot, right at the Burnell Boulevard Main Street intersection, right in the parking lot. Obviously, there's already a concrete pad there, so there's no need to install any concrete pads as a concrete pad for right now. So everything's already been scoped out. We've walked the locations with Laz in the parking lot areas, and everything's been signed off on. So it's just a matter of installing it, which we're looking to install by the end of the week this week. If you go by these locations now, you'll see them all, all striped out and ready to go. It's just a matter of installing at this point. So that's our first location.
Greg?
Yes.
Yeah, just one quick comment on that. Make sure that you're installing it far enough away from the wall. If you could make sure that they just pay attention to that.
Yes. Yeah, no, we went out with TMP staff, went out with them and made sure it was in the proper location and specifically where they put it. It's not right up against the building.
Yeah, good. Okay. Because the inverted staple is,
Yeah.
it's not a schoolhouse rack. So you're not parking wheel in. You need to
Right.
be
Yeah.
able
No,
to access the bike from all around.
Yep. No, we understand. This is just where the approximate location is, but I know that because I went and walked by where they striped everything out and it was off the wall. It was not right up against it. So that's the first location, and then let's see here. Then the next location is right in front of the Norwalk Police Department, right on the South Main Street side. Again, we did not have to install a concrete pad. So it was just the actual, it was already concrete there. So it was just a matter of just installing the bike rack. The police department signed off on it and they were fine with it. So that's already been striped out as well. And then the next one is in the Webster parking lot, right behind the theater and right next to the alleyway, right next to the entrance on MLK Drive. So there's that location there. And then the next location, the Sono train station on the outbound side or New Haven outbound side of the train station, the parking lot. We were able to pour the concrete pad and that's again ready to be set and installed. Laz is already all set. We just had to relocate a couple things to fit it and everything should be a go and all set to be installed later this week. And then
Greg, I'm just one more comment on the train station. I'm sure you guys looked at that for conflicts with the stairs. I think that I know there's a stair somewhere there, but that's clear of the stair.
Yeah, so yeah, it would be, so basically the stair would run almost parallel to it, but there's a good amount of a gap in between the bike rack and the stairwell, so it doesn't impede anything. So it's clear. Yeah, we did not put it right in front of the staircase to impede anything.
No, I didn't think you'd locate it in front. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't pinching the discharge of the stair too much.
Yeah, no.
So that's cool.
Yep. And then one other good thing. So the Shark bike rack has been purchased. We're from Dero. So this is the just concept design of it. So we're just waiting for it to receive it. It takes a little while because it is a customized bike rack. So we are just waiting for it, at this point, and we're hoping to get it in, within the next month or so, as soon as they're done with it. And then just to show an exact location, this black dot right here will represent where it's going, right next to the exit to the Maritime Garage and right next to the across the street from the Maritime Aquarium along North Water Street. So that will be the location of it. And we'll keep you posted on the installation and when it's going to arrive and whatnot.
Whose idea was that?
That was Jim's idea. And that was TMP's. Yeah. And this is, we've discussed it. We're looking to do this around the city, and incorporate the theme of the area around the city and not be so industrial with bike racks, but do some cool themed bike racks across the city. So this is just kind of a start of things.
And to be absolutely clear, that did not come out of our budget. That came out of TMP's budget.
That was TMP's budget, correct?
Hey, Greg,
Yeah.
Jim Carter, just a question on the location of the aquarium bike rack.
Yep.
Since it's, I mean, it's obviously where the other vehicles are going.
Right.
But was there any consideration given to putting it down in effect where the trail is? And where there might be more bike traffic and it actually might have greater visibility than kind of tucked in where it is?
I'd have to discuss that with TMP. I mean, the idea was to kind of put it, near, more closer to the aquarium, where it's, visible. But I can talk to the TMP staff about, maybe adding another one as well. We could always look to add another one, in the future. Once, especially as the trail moves forward and near completion.
Yeah, I think actually I would second the idea about visibility, but in my opinion, I think the most visible spot would be in the other direction toward the south end of that lot, where there's that big like buoy. 'Cause that's like right across the street from the main entrance of the aquarium, no? And it's kind of like the pedestrian entrance to the garage. So that does that sound right? Is it?
Tanner, I would think that maybe if you're going to move it anywhere is probably more Jim's suggestion towards the dock that's already in the observation, deck area that's already there with the shade structure, and it'd be much more sculptural, about 200 feet to the, what is that, the east, I guess, where the Riverwalk starts, so you could park your bike and you could, maybe go to the IMAX theater or go into the aquarium, or at least, look at the river.
I thought there was like 3 bike racks down there. There's one in the Maritime parking lot. I don't know I thought there was one in the Maritime parking garage, and then there's one right before the bridge. And isn't there one by the the little footbridge, and isn't there one that overlooks right by where you were just talking about, Colin, that entrance over there, where the viewing is kind of, there's like an overlook. There's not one there?
There might be. It's not a shark though, I'll tell you that.
It's not a shark, and I love the shark. And
Well, I think we all agree that putting it in a place that maximizes visibility is important. I don't want to be too prescriptive or granular to TMP, but Greg, do you mind taking the feedback about visibility back, and then maybe some of the ideas that we've.
Yeah, I say, and even if you guys want, Tanner, if you want to, put together just a quick, just aerial and just show what points that you guys, because obviously we can describe this all we want, but maybe if you just, do a screenshot and just say, I think we like these areas, and just kind of put them on a map just so we can see.
Sure.
Just it makes it visually much easier to, instead of going through descriptions and trying to get exact locations. We also have to keep an eye on also for, if we're getting in the way of any planned construction as well in that area for the future with the Walk Bridge project and for the aquarium as well. So you need to be cognizant of that as well.
Yeah, and I imagine another consideration is having it on city property versus property that you have access to versus a property you don't have access to.
Right. Yeah, because also Laz, this is on the city, on Laz's parking, in their purview. So obviously, and they maintain it and overseen by the city, so it's much easier that way. But yeah, just put on an aerial where as a commission, you guys can get together separately and just say what locations that you guys find that you would like to see it, or maybe if we keep this one and add another one for the future, we can do something like that. So discuss that outside and let us know, and we can, but I will make a mention to the TMP staff and see that you guys will be coming out with that.
Sweet. Colin, does that sound good to you?
Yeah, it's just for me, it's just I agree. It's a visibility thing. If we're gonna, bother having a nice looking rack, we should put it somewhere rather than against the parking garage. That's not a very visible part. I mean, pedestrian wise, that I know there's a lot of traffic there, but you're not going to get any motor traffic that sees that. And it's also still kind of tucked back in the corner. So I like the idea of putting it somewhere where it can function as a sculpture as well.
Okay. We also went off of the bike share locations. This was one of the locations
Yeah.
that we were
I
looking
see.
at as well. So that's why, because there's plenty of sidewalk space there. So, but yeah, let us know and we'll, move forward with that. Okay.
Yeah. Colin, would you be willing to draft that? A set of options, a set of alternatives on an aerial view, on a satellite view.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Christine, does that sound good to you?
Greg,
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, what's the timing on the shark rack?
With everything taken as long as it is these days, I mean, we're hopeful to have it installed by next month, because it is a
Okay.
custom rack. So we did order it a few weeks ago and, we're trying to, expedite it, but, we're at the mercy of, shipping and whatnot. So, but
Got
we will let you know when it comes in. But yeah, if you can get it to us, before the next meeting, that would definitely be appreciative. And then, we obviously have one other bike rack, and we're looking to put it in Veterans Park as the next location, right along Fort Point Street. This was one of the locations that was also proposed by the commission. Right now, obviously, you just recently had the Oyster Festival there, and we have to work alongside Parks and Rec to move this forward as well. And there will also be needed a concrete pad in this area. So we will, continue to work with Ken and Rec and Parks and get this one installed as well. So all 5 bike racks will be put to use.
Before we leave bike racks, did everybody see Judd's request about putting a bike rack at the trailhead of the NRTV?
Yeah, I've got that ball rolling already. I spoke with Jim on Friday, and Jim gave me a verbal agreement that TMP would purchase out of their budget a rack to go at the NRVT, the new trailhead there.
Hey, Greg,
Yes.
so while we have this slide up, I have a little pet peeve here. It's a little bit gnarly coming out of Veterans Park and making a left on a bike.
Okay.
I know the crosswalk is down over there. I don't want to hijack this topic here, but I just wanted to point it out. We don't have to discuss it. I'm just showing that,
You're talking about for pedestrians or for biking?
well, either if you want to get across the street, well, not so much pedestrians because you can get on the sidewalk and head, towards the Maritime that way.
Right.
Or the other way, but if you're crossing on a bike, you're coming out of Vets Park and you want to go to the Maritime, it's a little hairy out there.
Right. I mean, obviously, this intersection, I mean, yeah, just looking at it, I mean, you have to walk up to the intersection. So, if you are going to cross there, you're, a mid-block would be needed. This intersection is included in our community connectivity grant for, improvements for biking, obviously. But at least in this, where the driveway is, that's not included in it. So, I mean, it's something that the city can, it can look at, but also the state would have to be involved as well. You can see it's Route 136, so.
Right, okay.
The state would
Gotcha.
definitely get involved, I'm not saying it's not an issue, just looking at it, it is, but, again, it's not something that, we can, fix automatically.
Yep. Thank you for your
But we'll,
attention.
but we can definitely add it to the list of deficiencies around the city, that's for sure.
Greg, back on topic of bike
Yep.
racks, does it still look like TMP will be able to honor that commitment about the new NRVT trailhead rack?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, Jim the other day brought it up that, they would purchase it. I mean, I think the only thing he brought up was just changing the style rack that was purchased last year.
Yeah, that's an action item that I took, and I was going to discuss it with Colin and probably also Sam, just to make sure that we're in agreement about the style of rack, but we can take that offline.
Yeah.
one of-
So that doesn't mean it needs to be decided now, because obviously it's not even built yet. So it's not like it needs to be decided. So that's something, over the next month or two, you guys can discuss discuss externally, and then, we can come up with an agreement towards the end and, get it installed and get it.
Yeah. Last follow-up question on the bike racks. You mentioned the Main Street lot, that one, the pad's already there, so that will go in by the end of the week. Was that
Yep.
also true of the police station? Is that going in at the same time?
All of them should be installed by the end of the week, because all
Oh,
the concrete pads have, so only two places needed the concrete pads.
Mhm.
And that was the Webster lot and the Sono train station needed the pads. And both of the pads have been installed. It's just a matter of installing the actual rack.
Gotcha. But not Vets Park, right?
Not Veterans Park yet, no, just because obviously the Oyster Festival was last week, and you know, we have to work alongside Rec and Parks. Ultimately have to decide and sign off on it before anything happens. So, but it's planned for that location.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to the four so it's four, right? Sono Station, Main Street Lot, Police Station, Movie Theater. Those will
Correct.
be installed by the end of the week. Once they are, I look forward to biking over there and taking some pictures and then probably promoting them on our social media so that
That'd be great.
So can I just, I got one question on location
Yep.
5 here
Yep.
at Vets Park. I would say, though these mostly are okay and we're probably part of, I think, the bike share locations.
Correct.
The difference between a transportation asset and your personal parking is kind of substantial, whereas I think you want your transportation assets at the periphery of the park. For convenient bicycle parking, this location is not near anything. So from a visual security standpoint, it's susceptible to quick snag and grab. And from a convenience standpoint, it's not particularly close to any of the amenities in the park. So maybe take a look at where it could be located in conjunction with Ken.
I have to check the list of locations. I'm pretty sure there is bike racks at the lower end of Veterans Park, but I'd have to double check that and just see. Because I know this was a
I
topic.
just, it's just kind of hanging out there, not near anything, and I can't see that, parking there would be convenient for me if I was, riding down to the boat launch or something and meeting somebody, to go out fishing, or if I was, playing soccer on the other side, or, any of those things. I just don't see that as a convenient parking spot if I was staying at the park for a long time and wanted to feel good that my bike was someplace I could keep tabs on it while I was watching kids play soccer or frisbee or whatever.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I remember last month when we discussed this, we also brought up the possibility of putting the rack in the middle of the park and in between the fields. There's a little plaza, a small plaza there, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, so I mean, moving forward, we could also incorporate more throughout the park. If there is, and again, I have to check the list to see if there's any on the lower end. But again, this was also one of the locations that, that the commission put forward through the bike share and how we want to, put it. And we are, it is going to be next to our connectivity grant bike facilities as well. So, that's another added benefit to it. But we can definitely look at other locations inside the park for other bike racks.
So, Greg, speaking of the connectivity grant, that's your next agenda item, right?
Yeah, I have. Yep, I got other things to talk about. So
yeah, do you want to just roll into that right now?
Sure, absolutely. Here, let me stop my share. Okay, here, let me skip ahead here. Okay, so the DOT is still reviewing the design plans that we submitted. We periodically check in with them every week or 2 weeks, and they are doing a more than average review on this. They're kind of doing a complex review due to the overall length of the project and the changes, especially along 136, 4 Point Street and Seaview Avenue to Van Zant. Obviously they never installed a bike box on a state route before. So this is something that's new to their review process. So this is also the longest bike route east to west that they've received by any state municipality. So the review process is taking a little longer than expected. So we do check in on them, every week or so and try to get an update. But they are they say it every time. They're very excited. They're, for this implementation of this project, and they're just taking their time and doing their due diligence, and they really want to see it happen. They've only done, as far as anything close to this, they've only done one extensive review or installation of a bike facility that's close to this, and that's in East Hartford on a state roadway. So we're waiting that approval any time now, and or any comments that we need to that we expect to get. So we'll keep you posted as we wait for it.
So I wanted to ask Greg, you mentioned that the exit from Veterans Park that we were just talking about, according to the street sign, it's called Bushbaum Avenue. But you mentioned that was going to be next to the connectivity grant facilities. And in what way will those be different than what's currently there? Because we currently have two painted bike lanes.
It's not going to be so much different. Just outside of it, when you go right onto 4 Point, the bike box is going to go right at that intersection.
Oh, the bike box. Okay.
Yes. So I mean, it's obviously it's not directly at the driveway, but it's a few hundred feet away. Not even.
At a high level, the grant is getting us painted lanes for several miles and sharrows for a few miles as well, and then the bike box. At a high level, is there another element of it that I'm forgetting?
Oh, we're also putting in crosswalks as well, and then we're also, there's a few intersections as well that we're just looking to reconfigure. Not so much the layout, but just as far as where the turning arrows were placed, just to fit in, the sharrow symbols as well. So just changing, so we'll have to grind out some of the existing turning arrows to fit in the shared bike lane symbols.
Got it. Thanks.
And then we're also putting in, like I said, we're putting in crosswalks along 136 where there were ADA ramps, but no striped crosswalks as well.
Cool. So again, a high level question. You said the state DOT is taking their sweet time, hopefully doing a thorough review.
Yes.
Do you have any indication as to approximately when it's ready?
I wish I can have an answer, but I don't. We're waiting diligently, or patiently, I should say. Like I said, we check in with them because we really want to get it done as soon as possible. We're hoping to get it done before the end of the year this year, before striping season's over. So yeah. We're just waiting their review. So they, I think they're just taking their time to make sure it's proper, because they're also looking to do a whole design guideline as well for the entire state. For striping and for bike boxes and for bike lanes. So they're really diligently going through this to kind of conform to what their design standards are going to be for other municipalities that may want to do something like this. So they have a guidebook as well, similar to what we're doing. We look to do as well. So
yeah, well, hopefully the fact that it's taking long now means that it'll be streamlined in the future.
Yes. Let's hope.
All right. Any follow-up questions here, Colin?
I was just wondering, since you're saying it is the longest bike route submitted by a municipality, can we get a draft of a press release to try and capitalize on this? Because sounds like a pretty big deal that could get us some statewide news and some attention for our efforts here.
Good idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously we have to just wait and see, what the review comes back with the state. Obviously once everything's been approved by them, we can move forward with it. That's probably the right time to do something like that. And once we plan to, install it and go through that process as well. So I don't know if we're quite there yet, but I think once we move forward with it and get our response from the state, then we could do something like that.
Great.
Any other questions on that? No? Okay. Let me just go back. Here. So we're looking, the city has tasked VHB to explore the feasibility and create some concept designs for sidewalks in Rowayton, specifically along Rowayton Avenue, Witch Lane, and Hunt Street. Obviously, this has kind of been a contentious thing over the last few years. Obviously, those roads are lacking sidewalks. So Obviously, there are a lot of narrow streets, and so we tasked VHB to look at the feasibility and put together some concepts for us and do the whole complete survey of all the streets and kind of see what what we can do there to improve pedestrian access and connectivity in that area. Specifically on Rowayton Avenue, we're looking to put it on Rowayton Ave from between Wilson Ave up to Cutlip Street, which is Route 136. And then also obviously on Rowayton Ave from 136 all the way up to Belmont Place, which is just south of Rowayton train station. So that portion is Rowayton Avenue. And then on Hunt Street, that will run from Rowayton to Witch Lane. And then again on Witch Lane from Hunt Street to Highland Avenue, which will make much better accessibility for pedestrians and sidewalks. VHB is gonna do, obviously a good idea, Tanner.
Yeah, this is, that's what you've explained, right? Did I get it
Yes,
right?
correct. Yep.
Yeah,
So
so
that's
for everybody's use, that's the roads that Greg described. Go ahead, Greg.
Yep, I say, obviously both sides of the street are gonna be rather difficult to do sidewalks. So even if we just find which side of the street would be best to place ADA compliant sidewalks, obviously that would be our, that's obviously what we would like to see is ADA compliant sidewalks and not just a footpath. If we can fit them in there, they're gonna perform a survey of the entire corridor. And they're also gonna see where the current right of way is and collect the traffic volumes and of course crash data and pedestrian counts and so this is something that at least the majority of the residents in the area want. There have been, Jim and Garrett have met with a lot of Rowayton residents over the past few months, and there is a large support in this area for sidewalks, obviously, but like anything else, there's also been some opposition to it as well. But we are, we really like to see sidewalks, ADA compliant sidewalks in this, in this area, if we can. So,
What's the budget for this?
so right now we're just in, right now, obviously, we're just looking at the feasibility and the concept designs. If this is even doable, especially with all the surveying that's going to have to be done. As far as exact cost, I'll have to let you know, Colin, offline. I'll get
A little
that.
early for exact costs. I was looking for more of a high level. I mean, X number of linear feet of concrete sidewalk.
Well, I mean, as far as concrete side, I mean, the thing is, it's hard because we don't know where we can even put the sidewalk, so we don't even know on what side of the street yet.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, I'd have to measure it out and get the exact measurements of the length. I mean, I don't really want to do math in my head and say it over, say it out loud. So, I'm not really good at that. So,
Well, and in any event, what you're announcing is just the study of the corridor, right?
yeah, it's just a feasibility if sidewalks are even, if there's enough right of way and, to even put ADA compliant sidewalks in this, along these roadways. Because I don't know how many of you have seen these roads. They're rather tight.
Yeah.
And other than just concrete sidewalks, there might be some retaining walls that need to be replaced, and once replaced once the sidewalks are put in. So to give a cost estimate on this, I couldn't even tell you, just because we don't even know if it's even feasible yet. So VHB will come up with
Right.
they'll do the work and see what the feasibility is.
Right. I mean, I guess I feel like the first step before I even paid somebody to do feasibility, I mean, is usually to figure out what the cost is on a high level. If I'm working for a developer and they're developing a building and the math doesn't pencil out, they don't even bother paying an architect to do, any kind of feasibility work. They go, I can't do it.
I understand that. We're just basically, Colin, what I'm doing is I'm just updating the commission on this area.
I get it, Greg. But what I see here is I see some roads that, yes, are deficient, but if it's going to cost you know, at a high level without even taking into account, you know, any kind of retaining walls or anything. If you look at that and it's, you know, two or 4 miles of concrete sidewalk, and that's going to cost, you know, $5 million or whatever it is, you know, and it's going to serve 100 residents, you know, can we spend $4 million somewhere else and serve 20,000 residents better? I mean, that's what I'd be interested in before you even bother doing a feasibility study. I mean, they may need the sidewalks, but there's probably, you know, a larger population that could use with $4 million worth of infrastructure or whatever the number is.
Well, every neighborhood thinks they need sidewalks. So, I mean, it's hard to, you know, this has been
Well, I mean,
contentious.
every neighborhood pretty much does need sidewalks
Yeah.
unless it's extremely low density, but you know, it's
Well,
it's a tough thing,
noted.
but
Greg, do you mind taking that feedback back to Jim?
I will bring it back to Jim. Yes,
Cool.
absolutely.
And can I just add a comment? And Greg, you know, you're doing great work. I just always see like the voiceless, like the people of the South Norwalk. They may not be present, they may not be pushing, but they don't have the means, but they're not the ones with the cars. So,
I understand
I
what
hear
you're
what-
saying, Christine. Yep.
okay, thank you.
No, I totally get it.
I think, Greg, this is particularly salient in light of what Jim's told me before, or like on Friday at when we met, that the sidewalk budget is pretty constrained right now.
Very for new sidewalks. Yes, very.
Yeah, I think if we were just swimming in money for sidewalks, then this would be less of an issue, right? I'd say let's put a sidewalk everywhere. But if we're operating under such tight constraints, then I think looking at exactly where the sidewalk money is being spent is probably a good use of our time as a commission.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I'll bring it up to Jim, and I mean, him and Gare have been the ones that have been going out to Rowayton for a few months, and you know, hearing what they have to say. And I mean, if you look at the previous budget cycles, there's always been money for sidewalks that have been allocated, but nothing's been done in this area. So it's not like they just all of a sudden said, oh, let's just put sidewalks here because people are complaining about it. This has been something that has come up many times throughout the capital budget process.
Gotcha. And I would surmise that there's a chance that Rowayton might be spending their own money because they're a separate taxing district with higher taxes. Maybe they're kicking in some money.
That I can't speak to. I'm not sure.
Sure.
Can't speak
Anyway,
to.
any other comments on this topic, or can we move on? Great, Greg, let's move on.
All right, and then the next thing, the Wall Street corridor. So a couple months ago, TMP released an RFP for the Wall Street corridor improvement project. The proposed study area it included all of the Wall Street area. That includes, you know, that includes East Wall Street, River Street, Isaac Street, obviously Commerce, all those intersections, and all those intersections as well, as long as and also all the infrastructure as well, you know, sidewalks and signals and ways that we can improve the entire corridor area. So basically, we put out the RFP request for an experienced engineering consultant to perform an overall design for the entire Wall Street area. So last month, over a dozen consultants came to the Wall Street area, and TMP staff directed a detailed walkthrough of the corridor and just showed the consultants, you know, the improvement locations that the city would like to see, and you know, the deficiencies that the area has, and how to improve, you know, and kind of incorporate more complete street measures into the entire corridor, especially for pedestrian and bike access as well, to, you know, especially to connect the bike infrastructure that's existing on surrounding streets, especially on, you know, Belden Avenue, and then even going up East Wall Street as well. So to kind of make a better connection, better accessibility to those areas. So yeah, so we just walked through with the consultants and just kind of discuss these specific intersections and these specific areas where we can improve, make those improvements. And obviously the biggest intersection would be the West Ave, Mott Ave, and Wall Street intersection. You know, I'm sure you all are aware of that. That's very complicated intersection, and not the safest, especially for pedestrians. We had an issue just even crossing the street there as well, with 24 people. That was quite a process. So definitely lacking some pedestrian access in that area. So we're looking obviously to move that process forward and, select engineering consulting firm to put together cost estimates and complete a comprehensive study of the area and put together multiple design concepts as well. So we're hoping to select the consultant by the end of this year. And then obviously as Bike Walk Commission, there'll be significant public engagement. So the consultant will be conducting a lot of public input and, obviously the Bike Walk Commission is definitely encouraged to participate in that once the consultant has been chosen. And, especially now, with COVID and everything and, the days of public meetings with the consultant and sitting there and pointing out things, they're going to be doing a lot of things more interactively with this public as well. So a lot more interactive aerials and mapping and where you can provide, some suggestions for the consultant to incorporate into the design phase. So we'll definitely keep, keep you guys updated on that process as we move forward with it. But
Yep.
we're
Great.
really excited about it.
Speaking of public input, we have a member of the public here with her hand up. Audrey, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, Jane Q. Public here. Greg, or anyone, I just wondered what's going on right at the, where Wall Street starts across the street from the library on Belden. There's some cones there and broken up bricks in the walkway there.
That I'm not sure about. They may be doing something underneath, some utility work or something underneath.
Been there for a little while. It's been there for a little while. It doesn't look like anything's going on. It's just
That might be a better
broken up.
question for Public Works.
Yeah, that's not. I don't think that's anything to do with TMP. That might be some public works. That might be, like I said, a utility project or maybe a wastewater project or. I can't speak to that.
Okay, could anybody, since I'm just a member of the public?
I've had on my list to start a better channel of communication with TMP for a little while. So I will take that on.
Okay.
I'm going to reach out to Anthony Carr and form a better relationship there. And one of the things I can talk to him about is what's going on.
Yeah, it's been sitting there for a while. So
Belden and
just-
Wall.
okay, thank you.
And that's at Ma Ave, right at Wall Street intersection, you said?
Yeah, it's where Wall Street, there's that little triangular sort of entry point into Wall Street from Belden at Mott. So it's right across the street from the library, and it's there's a couple of cones and a bunch of broken up bricks and in a walkway there. There's actually no formal sidewalk across there. There's just a kind of a dirt footpath, but it's all kind of broken up and just sitting there. And it just wonder what is that?
Well, that was something, there was no, sidewalk or crosswalk there. That was something we, the consultants definitely noticed and we all noticed when we did our walkthrough. So yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I snapped a picture of this desire path here. This is I had lunch on Friday with Jim and Greg, and one of the things we talked about was this RFP for Wall Street, and they mentioned reconfiguring this intersection, and this just seemed like such a good example of the kind of thing that needs to be reconfigured, because clearly there's a demand for a crosswalk here, for a path across this gargantuan intersection, but it's not been realized by any sort of formal infrastructure. So I'm glad that will be addressed, even if it's in the longer term.
Yes, we spent a lot of time here during the walkthrough, this intersection, and consultants were very very intrigued by this project. So, and there's definitely a lot of interest from these firms as well to do this project. So we expect a lot of good ideas coming from them.
Sweet. Audrey, can you confirm where exactly is the point you're mentioning with respect to this photograph?
So if you're looking at the photo on the right.
On the right. Okay. So in the roadway or up on the curb?
No, it's part of the curb. It's inside the curb. There's sort of a bunch of tossed aside bricks and
Gotcha.
a couple of cones, and it looks like something was dug up and it's been sitting there for a few weeks unfinished. I don't know
Gotcha.
what it is.
Okay. Yeah. I'll take
But
that
it
on.
just doesn't look good.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Your hand's still up. Cool. All right, Greg, is that your last agenda item? Do you have one more?
That's it. No, that's it for me.
Awesome. Let us move right along. Teresa, you are next. Are you still here, Teresa? There you are. Awesome.
I am still here. Hi, everybody. So thanks, Tanner. I appreciate the time. Just wanted to give you all a quick update and about a project that we are working on with Jim and Garrett and Greg in TMP. So you're familiar with our Norwalker program, which is promoting walking throughout the city. It includes mapping of neighborhood walking routes, different events to get people actually using those walking routes and other places to walk around the city, some education and information about pedestrian safety, and then also supporting pedestrian infrastructure wherever we can. And so we had some funds from a state grant to work on the Norwalker program. And since we haven't been doing a lot of in-person events due to COVID, we had some additional money, and I reached out to Jim and Garrett and asked them if they had some ideas for pedestrian infrastructure projects that were in the works or planned for. And they suggested the installation of street trees. They had done some work in, and Greg, forgive me, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but they had done some work in researching the tree canopy and impervious surface throughout the city, and identified the West Main Street neighborhood of Norwalk as needing some improvements in terms of tree canopy. And so we're going to contribute some funds from our grant. TMP is also going to allocate some funds from their budget to hopefully install a decent number of street trees in that neighborhood. We're looking at very likely installation date in October, and hoping that that the commission, can be involved either in helping us promote it or on the actual day of the planting. And then also hoping to continue supporting this work if we can, if the state approves our use of the funds in this way, to continue contributing to the tree canopy improvement project in this area so that we can, year by year, slowly but surely improve the tree canopy. We're very excited about the prospect of street trees because they provide a lot of security, and we always say we want the pedestrian safety in place, but we also want the areas for walking to be appealing and be places that people want to walk. And so, as much as it can help with traffic calming, air quality, drainage, we just think this is a exciting project. And the fact that TMP had already done the research and looked at the data and identified this as a high priority part of the city, we're happy that we're able to let those experts figure out, what's the best course of action moving forward, and then we can support it however we can. Hoping to get the community involved as well, and make it an event to educate folks about what street trees are and places we can walk around the neighborhood, and hopefully improve the quality of life as well.
So, Teresa, obviously very well said. And just to piggyback off of what you had said, if the commission remembers back in May, TMP had requested the commission to write a letter of support on what was called the Healthy Communities Grant that we put together for this location. So unfortunately, we didn't receive that grant, but luckily Teresa and the health department came forward with this grant, and we were able to, we already had this location in this neighborhood kind of picked out already, and we were able to move forward, planting these trees along the amenity zone. And actually, Teresa, today I spoke with Jim late this afternoon. TMP and DPW staff actually scoped out the specific locations of the trees today. So it'll be along Wilton Ave on the east side of Wilton Ave. So we're hoping to get about 18 trees installed from what the health department has already procured, and the money along with TMP as well, to kind of move forward with this. So we're quite happy, and happy to, of course, to work alongside the health department and promoting this, and also kind of moving forward throughout the rest of the city and kind of use this as a demonstration location. And move forward to other neighborhoods as well. Because obviously this neighborhood has a very, one of the lowest tree canopies in the city, as we put in our previous grant. So we're looking forward to moving this forward.
Sweet. Greg, Teresa, thanks very much. I just want to say a little bit about street trees because they are incredible for all the different benefits they bring to a city. Obviously, the shade, it lowers the temperature in the summer, improves air quality, right? Outputting oxygen, taking in CO2, absorbing particulate matter, absorbing noise especially from car traffic. It calms the street because cars drive slower as a result of trees being there. And then just the beautification aspect of it. I can speak personally, having spent some time this summer in Brooklyn. One of the biggest impressions that was made upon me about the city itself was how many streets just had huge trees and how pleasant it was to walk or bike on a road with good street trees. So I'm all for it.
And then as soon as we have more details about when the installation will happen, we'll reach out and see if anyone from the commission would like to be involved or give us some ideas on how to engage the community, promote it, publicize it, that kind of thing as well.
Sweet. Well, we'd be happy to share it in our channels, on our social media, and our email list. And I will be there planting trees whenever it happens.
Thank you.
Any other questions or feedback for Teresa? Awesome. Then let's move on. We are right at the 1 hour mark. Brad is going to talk about crosswalks around the town green. And Brad, because you're a less frequent participant in our meetings, do you mind introducing yourself really quick?
Sure. Do you have me on camera?
Yep.
Okay,
Oh,
great.
let me stop my sharing as well, because I think you were going to share.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, so my name's Brad Craighead, and I'm a property owner around the Norwalk Green. Just full disclosure, this is my wife, Tracy, and Tracy's going to get involved, more involved in Norwalk, which is great. I think the community needs more than just my help. It needs your help. It needs Tracy's help. We have a fairly acute problem here, but it's one that, if you ask me, ticks all the boxes that everybody's talked about in this meeting, not the least of which is connectivity within the area, which is something that I didn't point out in my email to David Huvelman this morning, but Tracy reminded me of that. And one of the things that there was some mention of the Wall Street area, and I often refer to the Norwalk Green neighborhood as the gateway to Wall Street. And I believe it is the gateway. It's predominantly what's changed, but it's predominantly residential at this point in time. One of the most important concepts that I want to leave you with is just how many people live within 5 minutes walking distance of the Green. And what purely economically speaking, and I have no stake in Wall Street, but if people can't get from the eastern exposure of East Avenue, i.e. The several hundred single-family homes, if they can't walk from the eastern part of the Norwalk Green neighborhood to Wall Street, they're never going to go to those restaurants. And that is the lowest hanging fruit of all, if you ask me. Once they get in their cars, we lose them. And they're trying to decide between Westport, Sono, Wilton, and what have you. And Tanner and I have talked about this in the past, but there is a little known street that Nancy Rosette and I went down. I think it was the first time she had been there a couple of years ago, called Lewis Street, which basically is a direct access channel from across the Green right down to Wall Street. So if you can get across East Avenue, right, then you can get down to Wall Street. And from a pedestrian safety, mobility, connectivity perspective, that is the path of least resistance. So just before we get into the specifics of I guess my ask to you all, if we could just go to the density part of the screen share. Tanner, which is just some of the numbers, which I think are worth reviewing because frankly, they're so impressive. So there's a spreadsheet, Tanner, that has some green boxes on it.
Yeah, so you'd like me to share?
Yep, if you can get that up, just because I really think it's important in order to make this a priority, and I think that's what we're really talking about. I don't know what the priorities are of the Bike Walk Commission. I don't know what the priorities are of the city and DPW and TMP, but if you ask me, on behalf of the neighborhood, this needs to be a priority. And it needs to be a priority based first and first and foremost upon the safety, the pedestrian safety and walkability of the neighborhood, which is scary. But there are a hell of a lot of people that live here. So just very simply, what I put together on a spreadsheet, if you look at the top, I counted up about 200, there are 280 apartments within 5 minutes walking distance of the green, okay? And there are 175 single family homes, right? So if you go across, you can, we can debate how many people we think live in each apartment and how many people live in each single family home, but call it 2.5 on average. You pretty easily get to that bottom of that first figure, which is total population. This is full-time equivalents of people living within 5 minutes walking distance of the green, around 1,000. I don't think anybody really disputes that. It gets a little bit more complicated, but the numbers go up once you start to add in the commercial properties, right? Which I counted, and this is only a partial counting. I counted 22 commercial properties and 8 mixed use, or I guess it's 6 mixed use properties. And I said, okay, on average, let's say that there's 15 to 20 people in each one of those buildings on any given day. Well, the commercial properties that I highlighted at the bottom of this note, one of them has 110 parking or 101 parking spaces. I think there's more than 10 people there on average every day. And 2 of the other larger ones or 3 of the other larger ones are the Norwalk Inn. One of a handful of hotels in Norwalk is right there, right at the base of the Norwalk Green. And then the 2 funeral homes that I referred to, 2 of 4 funeral homes in Norwalk are right there. Those are the 4 biggest commercial properties. And the other ones are perhaps much more modestly sized, but I think on average, there's 15 to 20 people in any one of those properties on any given day. So you very quickly, get to a number that's 1,500 or more, and then it gets more complicated. But the real core of what goes on around the green and what makes it a community are the religious and civic institutions, which stretch a little bit down East Avenue, including the synagogue, the First Baptist Church, but also going up Park Street and East Avenue, St. Paul's, First Congregational Church, Human Services Council, which we'll come back to in a second, which is on the corner of Park Street and East Wall Street. My understanding is that that's going to become the welcome center for the Board of Education, which is going to have, I think, school buses like daily. That's, my understanding is what's happened is the city has decided that rather than building its own welcome center for newcomers to Norwalk, new students to Norwalk, they're going to go to 1 Park Street. And people have also highlighted the fact that it's walking distance to City Hall, which I think is laughable. But if you add up all the activity that goes on within these religious institutions and civic institutions, there's a farmer's market, as many of you know, right in front of First Congregational Church, that attracts hundreds of people on a Saturday. If you're going to build a neighborhood, you couldn't come up with a better setup than what's already there. But what's not there is enough crosswalks, and there's a complete inability to get across the green without. And let's go to one of the other slides there, if you don't mind, Tim.
Yeah, which one?
Yeah. So we can look at this one just very quickly. This just highlights the major institutions that I referred to, the big multifamily apartment buildings. Head of the Harbor South has 65 apartments. The Manor, which is a new development, has 26 apartments. Park Towers on the northwest corner of the green has 68 apartments. Now, that's how you get to kind of a third of the 600 or 700 people that live in the apartments. And then you've got all the density around Bettswood, which is all the single family homes. We know where the churches are, and we know where some of the big commercial buildings are. So why don't we go to that first slide if you could? Yep. The one that really highlights the issue, and that is East Avenue. So I can't remember exactly when it was that I came in front of this committee or this commission. I think it was 3 years ago. And we talked about the idea of trying to slow down traffic on East Avenue. And I think it's worth noting that I believe there are three traffic lights between Route 1 and I-95. One in front of the city, front of City Hall, one on Morgan Avenue, and then one in the street that's right between the City Hall and I-95. But basically what happens here is it's a drag strip. The mayor has referred to this as a drag strip. And if Morgan Avenue, if the traffic light that's there, if that's green, then guess what happens? The stretch of land, a stretch of street between Morgan Avenue and Route 1 is accelerate. That's what people do. So the reality is I refer to it now as the equivalent of the Merritt Parkway that runs right through the center of the city with 3 traffic lights, and none of them are anywhere close to this area, which is the center of town. It's the center of this community. So the issue that I think we're really trying to figure out, so what I've tried to depict here in the top right says there's 463 feet from the existing Park Hill crosswalk to what I'm proposing, just as a topic, which is to put in a traffic light and a crosswalk at Bettswood, which is kind of the halfway point. And if you look at the bottom right, it's 589 feet from Morgan Avenue to Bettswood. So it's over 1,000 feet. So realistically, no one who's coming from the east side of East Avenue ever walks all the way up to Morgan Avenue or all the way down to St. Paul's to cut across. They either don't cut across and hop in their cars, which is a waste, or they dodge traffic. So if you go there on any Saturday when there's the farmer's market happening, you'll see people standing in the middle of East Avenue dodging cars. It's pretty embarrassing. It's pretty unacceptable. Anyway, I'm not here to be negative. I'm here to be constructive because we're looking for a solution, and I'm looking to you all to help us make this a priority with TMP and the city. So the density is really something that I want people from the Common Council to focus on, because I think a lot of people think of the old Norwalk Green as largely commercial, lots of doctors' offices, et cetera, et cetera. But because it's a nice place to live, right, and it's iconic, it's the center of town. Whenever there are rallies, any political rallies, where does the Memorial Day parade? It all ends on the green. And the solution to all this is to hire policemen to cordon off the area, which just isn't really probably always necessary. So just full disclosure, I don't remember how many years ago it was, but for those of you who weren't involved in this project or aren't that familiar with the area, DPW proposed a crosswalk basically to connect to the gazebo in the middle of that. Yeah, right there. Exactly, Tanner. And that was shot down because the first taxing district thought that it was aesthetically inconsistent with the iconic historic neighborhood. Whatever. I think the city felt that there was a need, and it became sort of a debate on aesthetics and to some extent necessity on the local basis. And we ended up with the crosswalk down at St. Paul's, which I would encourage you to just go and observe what goes on there, which is that people don't respect it. There's a second crosswalk, which is on the corner of Lewis Street, right by the First Congregational Church, which is helpful. Sorry, come down a little bit.
Yes, that's right. Almost.
So I think as a short-term solution, we should have these repainted, and we should have those little pedestrian mans put out there. I go by the Norwalk Community College all the time, and that's a pretty busy street. And they have those little yellow men there. We absolutely need one of those on Park Street, right in front of the church. And there was one there, but it was taken away. And I think we need to improve upon the crosswalk that's by St. Paul's at Park Hill. And then we need to decide what approach we want to take for we'll call it the Bettswood traffic light and crosswalk. I know that a lot of people have looked at this over the years. It's a complicated problem. There are a lot of people that need to be a part of the solution. And I guess I'm a little bit concerned about waiting for just a study to come up with a big pedestrian plan. I'm not saying that a big pedestrian plan isn't warranted. I think given the Welcome Center, what's going to be put in place at 1 Park Street, given the density, given the dysfunction of the area from a traffic and pedestrian safety perspective, I totally support a pedestrian plan, but I think we all know that that will take years. Not like 1 year, but probably like 5 years, if it ever happens, because this is just something that people don't want to deal with. So my proposal is to put in a traffic light at Bettswood that I do believe would solve 90% of the problem and is a $250,000 solution, as opposed to spending $250,000 on a study, which is going to come up with a multi-million-dollar solution, which may not even be necessary. So that's really all I have to say. And I really appreciate your support of the idea. I think one of the things that would be helpful to me, and it's something that I raised with David the other day on a call, was about prioritization. And, you know, I understand that this may not be the most important thing in Norwalk, and maybe it's number 5 on the list. I'd like to think that it's top 10. And if we can get it on some sort of a list, then I think everybody will see that something is coming down the pike, and that would make people feel that they've been heard. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your presentation, Brad, and for the well-prepared materials ahead of time. Before I'm going to give Greg an opportunity to talk about what TMP is thinking already about this this area. Obviously, TMP is only one of several stakeholders, but I will say that not only is this on my radar and on the radar of the commission, but it's on Jim's radar at TMP, and he's looking forward to opportunities to improve the walkability here. But I'll let Greg continue and give you more detail.
So yeah, I have spoken with Jim and Garrett about this corridor extensively. Obviously, this has been an area of a lot of talk, and we certainly recognize that there is a serious need for pedestrian improvements along this portion of East Avenue. It's definitely lacking, to say the least. And obviously the intersection, the 6-way intersection that East Wall Street, East Avenue, and Park Street, and that's obviously it's not conducive for pedestrians to cross there. So we need to look in other avenues. But at this moment, the city just doesn't have the money to fund projects such as this without any data backing or proposed concept plans or any study put forward. Obviously something that is, for a mid-block crosswalk, that would be needed. The RFB that was installed at St. Paul's Place, it's, looks like it's not slowing traffic as, expected. Across a 4-lane roadway, an RFB, not really the best solution, because it's, you have to cross 4 lanes of roadway. It's 41 feet to cross that.
Do you mind defining RFB for people?
So that's the rapid flashing beacon, the pedestrian light, signal light that's there at St. Paul's Place right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, a couple of years ago, we did lower the speed limit to 25 along East Avenue. But, obviously there is lacking, the traffic calming measures in that area. An overhead hawk pedestrian crossing signal would probably be a better solution in this area. at Bettswood. Brad, I know you suggested a traffic signal per se, but that would be more like $500,000 at that location. And not only that, but we would also have to make adjustments to, and probably will, more than likely, it will affect the operation of the other signals on East Avenue, especially at Park Street, and East Wall Street. So you may have a lot of even more traffic sitting there. If we look to install another traffic signal there, and plus to install another traffic signal, the DOT would have to sign off on it. And speaking with Jim, more than likely, they would not even sign off on it, for a new traffic signal per se. But it's, we really want to improve this area. It is an area that is deficient in pedestrian access. We see that. The transportation master plan, I'm sure some of you have heard about it. But we have hired a consultant to do a master plan for the entire city of Norwalk. And we met with them about a month or two ago. And in this area that we highlighted, this intersection, and we are tasked them to come up with some concepts and some improvements in this area for better complete streets designs for all roadway users. So this is, we put forward, for the task for the consultant, and they'll come up with some suggestions for us. But at the moment, we don't have any money allocated for for something of that large of an improvement. And quite frankly, it would be kind of irresponsible for us to just put a mid-block crosswalk at this location without doing a comprehensive plan. There's serious implications regarding safety when we put a mid-block crosswalk in, so we want to do it right. So I understand what you're saying. You don't want to wait, but at the same time, we don't want to put something in there that's not safe. We recognize it's not the safest area. We get it. But a comprehensive, detailed plan and design is what's needed here. And, anything that we decide to do has to go in front of the traffic authority anyway. And if we just go ahead and put a crosswalk there, traffic authority is going to say no. So obviously, I understand that you want something there, but in the short term, $500,000 for a signal is not really a short-term improvement for that area. So, but we are looking to improve this area. It is highlighted, but at this time, it's just not in the cards to be fixed immediately.
So, Greg, thanks for that. I also want to add that I also was able to have a meeting with the consultants that are designing the transportation master plan, and this was one of the first things I mentioned to them. They asked about both granular topics and high-level vision, and I think that this sits in different ways in both camps. Right, it represents a different vision of like what we do with our central space in the city. Whether we maximize for car throughput or whether we maximize for community access via walking, via foot.
Right. Adding to that, it's not only improving just for vehicle. We're obviously improving for pedestrians, but we're improving safer for all users as well, because it's not safe for vehicles. There's a lot of vehicle crashes there as well, especially at that intersection. So this is something that needs entire complete street improvements and for all users, not just for pedestrians.
Colin, you looked like you're about to say something.
Yeah, I was wondering who the consultant was. Is it VHB again?
For the master plan?
The master plan, yeah.
No, it's FHI. It's Cheryl Holiday.
Okay.
Yeah, they changed to FHI.
So, Greg, is that the route that TMP is currently pursuing to improve this area, is through this through VHI, through the master plan, or is there another avenue that you are considering as well?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. We have, so right now, TMP staff especially, we have a lot of other projects that we're working on. I mean, you've heard other things we're working on, connectivity, Wall Street area, just to name a couple. And, we just don't have the staff right now to start looking at other projects while we're right in the middle of advancing these projects when money's already been allocated for these projects. So for us to stop and say, okay, let's try to get another project going here, then that holds up all these other projects around the city.
Sure. Yeah.
That
I'm
we've already
talking-
got funding for, we already have studies for. So it just, we can't just stop what we're doing and just work on something else.
Sure. I'm talking more about like the long-term strategy. Like,
Right.
I understand that there's not the bandwidth to work on this right now, but at some point when there is the bandwidth to work on that, do you think that you'll go through VHI in context of the master plan, or do you have plans to like hire somebody else?
No. What we would look to do is once we're able to get, once they do their comprehensive review of this area, then we could, they'll put together some concepts and say, okay, this is what we found based upon our review, and this is what we think we can, would be the best improvements for this area. And then from there, Tanner, we discussed it on Friday a little bit, then looking to move it to more of from a concept design more to a design phase, and then into a final design phase. And so we can get funding for that. We can come up with all the designs we want, but until we get funding for it, it's got to come from somewhere. So if we go for funding through a state grant or federal grant, and if we don't have the data backing or comprehensive plan, they're going to say, well, where's this coming from?
Okay.
Why do you want these improvements?
Gotcha. I think I understand. So it sounds like the next step would be to wait for VHI to get back with
FHI.
I'm sorry, FHI. I'm conflating the two.
No, it's okay. It's good.
I'm still very new to this world
No, it's okay.
of all these consultants. So FHI gets back to you with just kind of a high level design, like what did you call it? A vision for the area?
Yeah, so hope the complete vision. So they would do all the, the data collection process, review all the crash data, what type of vehicle crashes occur.
Yeah.
You could say, oh, there's a lot of crashes. Well, what type of vehicle crashes? What type of pedestrian crashes are there? What kind of, what's lacking as far as connectivity and accessibility? Because obviously East Avenue, get to 95, you use East Avenue to get to, to get to the train station, to Wall Street area. So there's a lot of other elements that come into play, but that's why a detailed review is to be imposed. And, there's a lot that goes into it before they even start putting together what the best, what the best concept designs would be for that area. And also keeping in mind cost wise as well. Yeah, you could do the best project in the world, but if it costs $20 million to do, where are you going to get that money from?
Sure. Gotcha. So this design proposal from FHI, what does the timeline on that look like? Is that like a 6-month thing, a 2-year thing for their chunk specifically?
As far as completion is concerned, I'm not sure what the date of completion is. I'll have to speak to Mike Yosak is kind of overseeing the master plan. So I'll have to speak to Mike about the timeline. We've started the master plan process, so it's not like we're looking for a consultant or they haven't started yet. We've already got a kickoff meeting. So they've already, I believe, started doing the stakeholder process, with some entities around the city as well. And, with some, input from them. And obviously there's going to be a public input as well. That is going to be very detailed. So definitely, invite the Bike Walk Commission, and we encourage the Bike Walk Commission and anybody else to be, involved in that as well, once they go out to a public input phase.
Great. Well, Greg, thanks for all the details here. I'll open it up with our last couple minutes to other people who have questions about this.
I'll jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, Colin.
I'll talk to Brad just because I see him occasionally at the parades when I'm down there with my kids, and I'll say that the parades are, as an urbanist, one of the more depressing things I attend here in Norwalk, because I live within walking distance, bring my kids down, as I think photographed them one year in the Radio Flyer collapsible wagon, and watch as they have a fantastic time watching everything go by, and then the police and the fire trucks enclose the green. Everybody feels wonderfully safe for about 10 minutes while they get an ice cream and a quick sandwich. And if you weren't the first person to get a sandwich, the 15 minutes later when the fire trucks go away and take away the street parking that protects the green, all of the families clear out because nobody feels safe with their kids there anymore, which is entirely your point. So, you know, street parking, I think, or another way of providing a boundary to the park is something that I've always thought would make that area feel better and create some friction for the traffic. I don't feel that the park is feels overly inviting, though it's spacious and beautiful. It's not a space that's conducive to making one feel secure due to the high speed of the traffic. So there's also not a lot of access on all sides from the availability of on-street parking. You know, you go to classic New England town greens, like, you know, New Haven is a great example of an urban green. There's parking all around the green. Guilford is another nice one. There's parking again all around the green, fronted by, you know, various types of retail, civic institutions, hardware stores, you know, a bookstore, you know, even Main Street in Madison, though not a green, you know, that's a very broad Main Street that's pedestrian scale. There's a lot of retail frontage, you know, up the coast, a lot of parking. Just feels nice to be there as a person as opposed to our green. I think it could be that, you know, I think we could probably take your $500,000 traffic light and disperse it into paint and, you know, curb extensions and delineators and probably get, you know, 85% of the way there. And, you know, that would probably be my vote in trying to push TMP and whatever other organizations need to sign off to get some of these things in place. You know, I think as you've noted, the farmers market is very popular. I drive by on Saturday mornings very frequently, and making that better, as good as it can be on a limited budget, is probably the place to start. You know, so delineating those parking shoulders, you know, with an edge line, so that people know that the road is narrow, and making sure that it's not an open-ended edge line, so it doesn't appear as another lane, and getting you the pedestrian, or, you know, some sort of delineator, providing a curb step out area and a daylighting of the crosswalks would be helpful. You know, and maybe helping to provide or prohibit parking too close to intersections would be a great way to start. You know, and that'll help develop the west side of the green, and maybe we can do some around the church, St. Paul's, I think it is, in that area, and then work towards tackling East Avenue. But I 100% hear you. You know, I live within walking distance, and I'd go there more often if it was a nicer walk.
Thanks, Colin. I'm looking forward, Greg, to seeing what it was FHI, right?
FHI, correct. Yep.
What they come back with, and I hope it's sooner rather than later, so that we can take that and iterate on it, and you know, go get some money and spend some money and make this a better place. I think since we're right at 7:32 now. If there's nothing else pressing, I think I would move to end the meeting, but if there is something pressing, then let it be known.
Tanner, thank you. I just want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Yes, we had discussed about trying to get the speed limit lowered from 30 to 25.
Greg, didn't you mention it's already at 25?
Yes, it's 25 miles an hour. It was lowered a year and a half, 2 years ago.
You know, I've gotten different answers from different people. I can tell you this much. There's only 2 posted signs. One is almost all the way down by 95. I can't even tell you where the second one is. Oh, it's on the other side of Route 1. I think they still say 30 miles per hour. I don't think, and my understanding is that we couldn't get 25 in that location, that all of East Avenue was 30, even though they had lowered the speed limit on East Wall Street to 25 miles per hour. And Park Street is also 25 miles per hour. So if that's in fact 25 miles per hour, we should make sure that people know. And so just wanted to clarify that. And look, I am not proposing something or suggesting something as an interim solution that creates risk to pedestrians. I only thought that the obvious place for somebody to access the green is right there at Bettswood. So you're the experts on what the right solution is, and I appreciate that and I respect that. I think Colin brought up some very interesting points about ways to try and slow the traffic down, which is absolutely a step in the right direction. So I just wanted to make those points. So thank you.
Thanks again, Brad. Greg, can you just quickly comment on who it is that's responsible for putting up street what's the word? Speed limit signs.
Speed limit signs. So it is TMP, but I will you know, if they are lacking signage, we'll have to check and see along that you know, that specific stretch and see.
Cool. Yeah, if you could take that back and
yeah, because I was, you know, because from what I had, you know, we had talked about and we had discussed, it was 25 miles an hour, but you know, but we will we'll get it, you know, so we get it figured out.
Yeah, for the record, I think changes to the physical environment are going to beat the pants off of just posting a speed limit, even with some average enforcement, maybe with really proactive enforcement.
Yeah,
that would be different.
That section of East Avenue, I mean, unfortunately, you know, it is, you know, it's only 41 feet for 4 lanes, so narrowing the roadway for 4 lanes is not really there. You know, to put in an edge line or to narrow the travel lanes, you know, or even to put curb extensions or a crossing island in that specific stretch of roadway, you know, between you know, East Wall Street and Route 1. There's just not enough room there. So you know, that's where more, you know, that's where the design, you know, review will have to come into play. You know, obviously a hawk crossing system, you know, which is basically a pedestrian crossing signal for pedestrians. An overhead crossing signal would be ideal there, but that's still a $200,000 to $300,000 investment there in that location, and then who knows if that's even the right one, you know, just even before we even do a comprehensive review. So still money that needs to be spent there.
Just for some more explicit context for people who aren't familiar with the terminology, this is what a hawk signal looks like. So it's kind of a hybrid, like Greg said, between a full traffic light intersection and just a signalized crosswalk.
So you still have to set it up like a signal, a traffic signal would be, but it's just for pedestrians. So that would be something that would be more needed there than an RFP, you know, at street level to just yield. You have to stop for pedestrians crossing at a mid block like that.
Yeah, let me pull up a picture of a rapid flash beacon. Oh, that's what it is. I see. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, there's one of those right next to my house on Flex Hill that I use all the time. Great. Okay, at this point, let's see how I stop here. At this point, anything else that is pressing that people need to bring up? Great, then I would move to end the meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Barb. Thanks, Colin. Anybody opposed? Awesome. Great. Let's go home. Thanks, everybody.
Sorry you missed.
Everybody have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.